on a couple of efforts we have going on. Maybe we'll talk about those later in the call. And can I pass it to Elisa?
Oh. Hi, I'm Elisa Bonkowski, and I work with Baxter and Woodman Engineers in Crystal Lake. We do assist multiple municipalities with getting grant funding, and in particular, I'm trying to learn more information about this grant program for a specific project. I will pass it to Mickey.
Hi, everyone. I am Mickey Prawl, and I work with Elisa at Baxter and Woodman, and working on similar projects with her. And I'm not sure who's next. If anybody else wants to.
You can just choose a name, any name you see.
Okay, Allison.
Hi, Allison Hansen, Illinois Medical District. We are active and working on a bike and ped plan here on the near west side, and I'll pass it to Kenneth.
Oh, I think that's me, Ken O'Bell from Bike Walk Wilmette, and just a local advocate in the Evanston Wilmette area. I'm not going to be able to stay for the whole call, but I'll stick on as long as I can. So good to be here. And I can't see who to pass it to because I'm driving, so somebody will just have to go.
I'll pass it on to Parker.
Parker Thompson. I'm with Elgin Community Bikes out here in Elgin. And I will pass it on to Ryan Peterson.
Hey everyone, Ryan Peterson, Senior Planner for Epstein, and working on a couple community bike plans and other plans in the Chicagoland area.
I'm happy to go.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot.
Hi, Elliot Rosslin. I'm on the board of Active Trans, also part of Bike Walk Highland Park, and on the Transportation Advisory Group of Highland Park. And happy to announce that as of Monday, we have a new complete streets policy, finally. So we made a lot of persistence, a lot of pushing and shoving, and I think we came to an okay place.
Yay, congrats.
Thanks.
Is that something you could share with us, or is that publicly available? You could share a link. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have, because it was in the agenda packet and there were some amendments, so I have to get a final version. But I'll share it with Maggie and she can share it with the group.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's like the ultimate complete streets policy, because we had a lot of back and forth with community development and the public works. But I think it's, a starting point, and to be honest, the policies are only as good as how you execute them.
Yeah, and it's important that the departments in your village or city are on board with it, because they're responsible for implementing it. So it's a tricky balance to, but good work on negotiating and making it a stronger policy. So, Brad, do you want to go next? Introduce yourself.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, so I already went, I thought.
Oh, you did? Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh.
Pass it to Ralph. You didn't go, I don't think.
Hey, I'm Ralph Benaziak. I'm with the Bike Palatine Club, and I also write the bi-monthly, or I should say twice a monthly column on biking in the Daily Herald. And I'll pass it on to Maciej Ostrowski.
Hello, everyone. Maciej Ostrowski, Mount Prospect. I'm also part of Illinois Institute of Technology's Landscape and Urbanism program. So here to basically tell all the other, I'm getting information to tell all the other landscape engineers that, micromobility is a thing and they should plan for it.
See, I can pass it on. How about Elizabeth?
Hi, Elizabeth Adamchuk. LCI, I work with Ride Illinois Safely program with Dave, and I organized the Chicago Ride of Silence for many years. down in the south suburb of Oak Forest, which borders on Tinley and Orland. So hoping to get some traction there, but I know one of the planners that I'd been in touch with left. So back to square one. Maggie, I don't know who else has gone. I jumped on a
Yeah,
minute
sure.
late, so
How about Nick?
Nick Arquette, Village of Bensonville. Just here to listen along and gather information. Think maybe Alan.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Alan Leishman. I'm in Villa Park, and I'm on our local bike pedestrian transit subcommittee for the village government.
Nice. And anyone else who didn't introduce themselves?
Just me, I'm Ralph
Right.
DeFebo. I'm Ralph DeFebo, the other Ralph on the panel. I'm with the Illinois Prairie Path Board now and working on projects along the Prairie Path to improve it.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everyone and welcome. So we usually kick these off with Dave providing some updates from Ride Illinois, and then I'll provide some active trans updates, and then it's open up to all of you for anything you all want to share, any questions you have. So Dave, why don't we start with you?
All right. Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate the opportunity to share. Happy holidays, everybody, because it's December 13th all of a sudden. Just a few updates that we wanted to share. And I did, Maggie, I'm trying to get better at sending these to you like ahead of time, because I know you do the follow-up email. Want to start with an ongoing conversation with the Secretary of State, focused on some recommendations that Active Trans and Ride Illinois and other organizations sent to the Secretary. After 6 months, we had a follow-up conversation. The Secretary was not on this call. He was on the first one, but surprisingly, they actually did some work on the recommendations that were shared. And so nothing concrete yet, but they very focused on revamping the driver's education curriculum and content to include more information about people outside of vehicles, which is exciting. Also talked about requiring motorists to pass a bicyclist to change lanes to pass a bicyclist. So obviously that applies in more urban, suburban areas, not necessarily rural areas. And these are their priorities. And these have not been passed, so don't get excited. But these are things that they'll be working on in the near future. Interested in reducing the speed limit as much as that falls under their purview. So conversation will continue there, and then want to also help with some awareness, helping motorists understand, from the perspective of bicyclists and pedestrians, how some of their habits can be dangerous and deadly. Trying to get document that his deputy chief of staff is reading from. He said he was going to share it, and trying to get that from him now. So Active Trans will get looped in since you guys were part of the original conversation, and we'll figure out some next steps. But I would say progress, which is all we can hope for at this point. Let's see. Otherwise, education. We've been in conversation with the State Board of Education about bike walk curriculum for Illinois schools. That is something that ISB is kind of pursuing internally. They've got a plan in place, moving slowly, but still moving in the right direction. The eventual goal is vetted, approved curriculum by ISB that schools in Illinois can tap into. They also mentioned offering a training for interested teachers, up to 500 teachers per year. If they referenced another similar program that rolled out for history, and that was kind of the model that they were working on. Let's see, Ride Illinois is working on some legislative priorities. There'll certainly be overlap with what Active Trans is pushing for. They're tentative right now. Our advocacy committee is working on finalizing those, hopefully by the end of the month, but looking at an e-bike rebate or incentive program, which was pursued last year. Also considering funding and support for the Department of Natural Resources, because they're bare bones staff and no funding. So that means trails in our state are kind of falling apart. And then lots of things that fall under the kind of comprehensive safety. So is it reducing speed limits? Is it limiting right turn on red? Protected intersections and making sure that those are being installed for new and rehabbed roadways. So more to come, but we hope to have that ironed out here soon. You may be familiar that IDOT was required to do a vulnerable road user safety assessment, and that is available. I'm sure either Maggie or I will give you a link. It's actually not a super lengthy document. I think it's 44 pages. It has a lot of good recommendations that municipalities and counties and people in decision-making positions can kind of implement in or add to their future construction projects. I also wanted to mention that we're pursuing getting Elizabeth certified as an organizational LCI coach, which means she would be able to, we'd have more freedom to offer LCI seminars around the state with Elizabeth teaching them. So we're hoping our goals right now are get Elizabeth certified within the next 6 months or so. And then we're looking to do an LCI seminar probably in central Illinois sometime in 2024. And then let's see the last few things here, a few events. So the National Bike Summit, which is in Washington, D.C., March 17th to 19th. So it's middle of the week this year. If you've gone in the past, their League of American Bicyclists to change the approach a bit. Elizabeth will be attending. I'll be attending. We would love to know if you either plan on attending or kind of on the fence. Elizabeth and Armeline Moretti, she's joined these calls before, are the state coordinators for Illinois. And so the sooner we know kind of who is planning to go, the better prepared we can be, especially for Lobby Day. That's kind of the main reason. So when we go to Capitol Hill and talk to lawmakers. If you want to learn more about the National Bike Summit, you can either contact me or Elizabeth. We can be happy to tell you more about that. In the same vein, there's actually a youth bike summit. So Ride Illinois, we've been collaborating with the National Youth Bike Council for the last 6 months or so. They've been doing mostly an annual youth bike summit. This one's going to be in Pennsylvania next year, June 14th to 16th. So if there are young people that you're aware of who are engaged, who use their bikes for practical, trips, everyday trips, that's kind of the vein of the summit. Check out the Youth Bike Summit. We'll continue to help them kind of plan and make some connections, but it seems like it's going to be a really cool event. And then the last event to mention, so Ride Illinois, we've got a committee that's been working on our bike summit. So some of you have attended the event that's been every other year. So 2024 would be the year. We've decided that we're going to expand the scope of this event. The working title, and this will change, is the Bike Walk Livable Communities Summit. So something encompassing those topics. It will be in probably April of 25, saying spring right now, and it will be in Springfield as well. Ride Illinois is going to be reaching out to potential partners such as Active Trans and many others we've worked with to assist with planning that event, getting the word out, all the logistics that go into planning a big event. And then the last thing I'll mention is, hey, we're a membership organization. Active Trans is too. If you got some year-end giving, consider Ride Illinois and Active Trans. We have a little membership code or discount code, Yay Bikes, which will save you $10 off any membership. That's my spiel. Happy to answer questions or keep an eye on chat in case questions come in.
Great.
Hey, Dave, I've got a question about the ISBE curriculum that's sort of slowly wending its way through the department. Are they focusing on elementary or middle school or high school or all?
I would say right now call it all, but it'll probably end up being kind of in that middle school. The existing content that we've shared, FHWA actually had content. Bike Alliance of Minnesota had content. They tend to focus on, from a required curriculum standpoint, that 4th to 6th grade.
And I can, when I send out a follow-up email, I can share some of the curriculum that is out there. There's a lot out there right now, but it'll be nice to have a standard state version. But
That's yes, and League of American Bicyclists. When I last spoke with their executive director, they're tentatively planning on that being a push for the next couple of years. Is that each state does have established curriculum, because without that, the likelihood of it being taught in schools is slim to none. Cool. Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate the time to
thanks,
share
Dave.
some updates.
And then let's see, a few other updates for you all. We had a trails webinar yesterday, and it was about northern trails in both Chicago and the suburbs. So we had John Furvoy, who's sometimes on these calls from Evanston, from the Evanston Transit Alliance, talking about the North Shore Channel Trail. And they just got a grant for a feasibility study to connect that trail to the Green Bay Trail. And then we had Jim O'Reilly talk about the Weber Spur, which is like a potential connection between Chicago and the suburbs. And then Barbara Klipp from Lake County speak about Route 53, which intersects several communities, but the idea of a state trail or park in this corridor, it was going to be a highway at one point, but the land is now going to be transferred hopefully to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and we'll see a different use. So I'll make sure to send out a link to that webinar, but it was very interesting. And I think one of the main messages they were sharing is it's so important. They've been like working on these trail projects, I think each of them for at least a decade. And their message was, it's so important to like talk to your elected officials, and like they're like, don't just post on social media, like only a certain small group sees that. But if you actually reach out to elected officials, it makes a big difference and helps, keep these projects on the minds of, people making decisions about our land, and, keeps things moving forward, because often they hit obstacles and the advocacy push is really needed. So I recommend checking out that webinar if you weren't there yesterday. And then another update is we're at Active Trans, we're launching a street team advocate training in January. And this is a training that, like, all of you here on this call, I don't know if you'll be interested in the training, but because like a lot of you are already experts in advocacy. But this training, but I would say it's something, if you're interested, please join or help spread the word about it to others that might be like somewhat interested in getting more involved. But the training is going to be, the focus is like talking about two of our big campaigns, which is, one is Safe Streets for All, so walking and biking. So it's kind of our Bike Walk Every Town work, but more of an introduction to that. So kind of more high level. But then another focus, and one of the main focuses, is going to be on transit, which some of you might be interested in this, because so the issue is transit is for our region, for our state, is going to be running out of money by 2026. So it's we're going to be doing a lot of organizing to figure out like, how do we save transit essentially. So this training will really focus on that, and we'd love to have a lot of suburban folks involved in this issue. So we've got an online training January 9th, which is a Tuesday in the evening, and then we have 2 in-person trainings at our office January 17th and 25th. And I'll send all that information out if you're interested yourself, or if you're willing to share it with others. And then we're going to be later on, so this is more of an introduction, and then later on doing a deep dive with those advocates who went through the first training to really dig into, okay, how do we really organize in Springfield around transit, and what else can we do for Safe Streets for All, as well as one other topic that we're going to be digging into a little more is we're working on some greenhouse gas emission state level policy work. So transportation is our biggest emitter of greenhouse gases in our state. So looking at some bills that could potentially encourage a shift to, you know, focusing more on walking, biking, transit, and electrification of vehicles. So if you're interested in any of this, I recommend the Street Team Advocate training. And then in addition to that, so we have this Bike Walk Every Town program, which some of you have been through in the past. So it's our Suburban Advocacy program, and it's all about like helping advocates develop their own campaigns in their community and kind of some tools, what we recommend that can really help push walking and biking to the next level in your community, and how to organize with others in your village or city. So we're previously, before the pandemic, every year we had in-person summits where we offered that basic training, but then also just brought suburban advocates together in person. So we had kind of a Bike Walk Every Town summit, we would call it. And we're hoping to organize something in 2024. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm not sure about the timing yet, or the location, but I will be soliciting ideas from you all. Like, what would you like to do at this training? Like, is it kind of about just connecting with each other? Would you like to have some type of brainstorming sessions? Would you like to have are there any topics that you'd really like to dig deeper into? So if you have any ideas, feel free to share right now, but I'll probably send out some type of survey early next year to get some input from you all. So sorry. And then, okay, so beyond all of these trainings and these summits, one other thing I wanted to bring up was election advocacy. So I believe in March, there's going to be primaries, elections throughout the region. And in the past, some advocates have put together questionnaires for candidates, local candidates in their community, to kind of emphasize, like, what is their stance on walking, biking, transit? Like, what's their stance? Like, do they care about active transportation? Are they gonna, you know, help advance and improve safety for people who aren't in vehicles? So I know Dave, you were involved, right, in Elk Grove Village, putting a questionnaire together. Oak Park, or you tried. Oak Park has had some very successful questionnaires in the past, for like a few election cycles, and it's actually helped, I believe, elect some pro-active transportation candidates, which actually they just got, Ryan, or you're not in Oak Park anymore, are you? I think Oak Park just got like $8 million budgeted for their active transportation plan to implement it. Thanks to like their city council, or their village trustees. But regards to election advocacy, we have an old webinar, which I think is it's kind of an evergreen webinar that kind of goes over how to put a questionnaire together and just like ideas around, you know, how to get candidates to commit to sustainable transportation and transportation improvements before they're actually elected, because that can really go a long way. Later on, you can remind candidates like, hey, look at this questionnaire you filled out. You made these promises publicly. So I'll send out that webinar if you're interested in something like this. And we have some sample questionnaire you could use. Dave, I don't know if you want to speak at all to your experience putting a questionnaire together.
The questionnaire was awesome. We'll just say that the local politics in Elk Grove are not receptive. So
yeah.
The one takeaway that we had for the local organization was, you know, we need to plan further in advance, give a little bit of advance notice, and build a coalition. So it's more voices. So
yeah,
we'll do it again. We're not backing down, but yeah, I think it's important to kind of pull in as many voices as possible.
Yeah. Any questions about any of that? Feel free to raise your hand or put anything in the chat. Actually, I haven't been looking at the chat, so I don't know what's in there. Oh, someone would love the questionnaire. Oh, Ken, you'd like the questionnaire resource? Yeah, I'll be sure to send that out. And then there's a few grants that I think there's a deadline for a RTA access to transit grant that's just in a couple days. I think it's on Friday as the deadline, but there's I did see the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus is organizing a call. It's some type of town hall on Monday of this week to talk about climate action grants. And that's very much related to transportation. So I can send out that information. And we're still waiting on another federal grant related to walking, biking, infrastructure grant, but it was supposed to be released in the fall, but now they're saying winter. So, and then Dave, you have your grant for the bike safety
grant.
quiz.
Yeah, yep, the mini grant, which, as Ralph knows, since we've been emailing about an article, we exceeded our funding by almost 8,000 students, which is good. It's good. So yeah, that's an annual grant available to any public-private school in Illinois. So we're just early in the grant cycle. Applications, I'll put a link. So if you know teachers, you can share it with them and have them apply.
And then Ryan in the chat said, ITEP, yeah, ITEP's coming up in 2024. That'll be fall. So that's our big funding opportunity for walking and biking in our state. There's a Safe Streets for All grant coming up, also great for walking and biking, federal resource. And SPR planning grant, that's IDOT's planning grant, right? And then CMAP, our MPO, has their local technical assistance grant that I believe they're opening up in February or sometime in the spring. And that's a great one for if you don't have an active transportation plan in your community. That can help your community develop a plan, but also great for other technical assistance as well. So LAB Spark grants. Okay, the League of American Bicyclists. Okay, that's currently open. Thanks, Parker. And then Invest in Cook, that will likely be opening early in 2024. Thanks for the reminder on that, Brad. And then, yeah, lots of grants, I think, often in the winter start opening up. So we'll make sure to get those out to everyone so you can pass it along. But that is all from me. Anyone have anything they'd like to share? Any questions? Ralph?
Yeah, before you finish your piece, Maggie, you deserve credit for being the matchmaker between the Chicago Botanic Gardens and Bike Palatine. You announced to everybody that they had 6 bike racks that they were willing to donate. And we were able to find a truck and a driver in Palatine to pick up some of those. I don't know if all 6 will be available tomorrow morning, but kudos to you to getting the word out so quickly. And we have a underserved community in Palatine that could really use I'm told all 6 bike racks, but we'll see how many we pick up tomorrow. But thanks again.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that it worked out, and yeah, happy to pass that along to anyone. Did anyone else in your community? There was I know a lot of interest in these bike racks. Is anyone else able to?
I know Bellwood was trying to get some.
Okay, great.
So, but I don't know how much they followed up with them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, super. It seemed like I was surprised like how many communities reached out about the bike racks actually after I sent out that email. So it just seems like that's just like such a, I don't know. I almost want to look for more opportunities for just bike racks. It's like it's a small win that can really just like be encouraging, I think, to a community and really help out. So but Ralph, glad to hear that you were able to get a truck organized.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Maggie, in one of your emails, actually it's from October 5th, you mentioned a FHWA Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program
Yeah.
that was opening soon. Do you know any more about that?
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name of that, but that is the grant. Here, let me see if I actually have a link pulled up right now. So that's the grant that it was supposed to be released in the fall.
Okay.
Here I'm adding it to the chat. But it's right now it said they changed, sorry, they changed the grant release date to, it now says winter. So I guess that could be any time, hopefully probably January, February, but it keeps moving.
Okay.
So yeah, we're trying to monitor that one because it seems like it could be a great opportunity for walking and biking infrastructure. And what I've heard with these federal grants, they have a lot of money. These are new grant programs from the IIJA, from the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And there's a lot of money in each of these grants that are released. And like when they're initially released, it just seems like maybe not that many communities, areas are applying for them. So like a lot of people like are having there's a high success rate, it sounds like, from like you apply, if you apply for the grant, a high success rate of actually getting some funding. So unfortunately, I don't have much help. Sorry?
Add a little context to that, and Elizabeth, you know, and I'm trying to think if anyone else here was at the National Bike Summit last year, but that was one of the asks, one of the reasons we were meeting with elected officials was the program was developed, but it wasn't funded. Now, can we say that because Elizabeth and I spoke with a half dozen Illinois reps, that's the reason? No, but there were a couple hundred folks on Capitol Hill asking for funding, so some voices were heard. Maybe we'll take a little credit, but yeah, it's a great program, and definitely echo what you said, Maggie. So tap into it if you can.
Yeah, I was just looking at 45 millions available. And it is for the entire country, but I still think it's like pretty competitive. Like I think we can get some grants won in Illinois.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else anyone wanted to share?
Hi, this is Allison from Illinois Medical District. I did post up on the chat our website, imdbikehead.com. We just finished our study for walkability, bikeability with Sam Schwartz. And it's, I'll share that report once it's finalized, but it has great plans for us in terms of toolkits and quick wins and things we plan to do on the near west side of Chicago around our 4 hospitals and 2 universities. So this grant information is super helpful. We'll try and go after some of these dollars to improve our neighborhoods and definitely make the near west side more commutable. But I wanted to share the fact that our website's still up and active if anybody was interested in taking a peek. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Allison. Definitely excited that you guys have been working on that and looking forward to seeing the final product. Ralph?
Can I ask the other Ralph to give us any status on the extension of the Illinois Prairie Path to the east?
Well, the only extension that I know is that it's still funded through the county and they're going to do it. In the most recent ATA report that came out with the Des Plaines River Trail, there was a blurb in one of the group studies that showed money has been allocated, or they estimated the cost of redoing First Avenue intersection, which was substantial, a lot more than I ever envisioned for what I was trying to do. But I have not heard anything back from the county, but I sort of don't expect to until they want to tell me something. I wish I knew more. Maggie, do you know anything through the report that you guys just wrote? Did you, because I know you put a blurb in the ATA's report on the Des Plaines Avenue path. They talked about the cost of rebuilding the First Avenue intersection. And they didn't add it into the cost because they said that was already a project that was underway. But it sounds like you know about as much of the actual function of that as I do.
Right.
They've not been forthcoming,
Yeah.
other than that they funded it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know anything else either, Ralph. But I guess it's good that they've funded it, and hopefully we'll be checking in with the county soon about the DPRT feasibility study, and I'll see if I can get any more information.
You know, Ralph, I was debating on whether I was going to be the fly in the ointment or whatever, but maybe I will send an email to Sis Killen, that's in charge of the highway department. That was my last contact when she told me what was going on. And I'll ask her if there's any kind of an update. And because I am curious, I just didn't know how much of a pest to be on this one or not.
Well, I would say go ahead and do it and tell them that there were 20 people on a call asking about it.
You know, something that's not bad for the body of the note. Thank you. Can I say one other thing, Maggie?
Yeah, of course.
We've been working with Bellwood. The Prairie Path has two major blocks that I see of how to, when using it. First Avenue was the first one, and Manheim Road is the second one. And we've been working with Bellwood, getting some really good results, and we're going to try and remedy that intersection as well as the First Avenue one. So I'll try and keep you on the loop on that too. Maggie, you were at the first meeting that we had with Hillside about it.
Right.
So we're planning a follow-up with Hillside as well.
Okay, good. No, thanks for leading the charge on that. It's someone needs to like coordinate everyone, and you're corralling.
Just need a little success.
Yes. Army?
Just asking what's going on with that Manheim intersection on the Prairie Path?
Well, the Manheim intersection, it's really sort of crazy how the official route goes. If you're going westbound on Manheim, you're supposed to ride the sidewalk north to Washington. If you're going west, cross over and then come back to Warren and go west. If you're coming from the east, you're supposed to go south on Manheim to Madison Street cross. Bellwood's looking into turning the bike path down to the south so that the riders can all go to Madison Street to cross and then go up on Manheim. Originally, we had looked at extending the path directly on Madison Street through Hillside, but Hillside objected and they said no, that they weren't going to. They have a fence that crosses Madison Street, and they said that they would not allow a gate to be put in that fence for bike riders. So that leaves us to traversing Manheim Road still. So we're trying to figure out a way how to get bicycles safely up Manheim Road. Hillside had put a large proposal through at one point to have riders ride up Manheim all the way to Washington to Butterfield Road to the path. That's something that we weren't really in favor of. We think it's too much riding on Manheim Road. So we're looking for alternatives, and we're going to have another meeting, I hope, with Hillside to discuss some things that came to light when we were talking to Bellwood, and eventually get the two of them to talk together. I don't know if that answers your question. When you say what's going on with it, that's still what we're trying to get accomplished.
Yeah, I think that was a good summary, Ralph. So,
Yeah.
Ryan, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention CMAP is actually doing an LTA project with Bellwood, Berkeley, Broadview, Hillside, and Westchester in early 2024. And I think they'll probably address some of those concerns, those planning concerns. that you just mentioned. So just wanted to let you know and keep your keep an eye out for that plan kicking off soon.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ralph, I think at some point, remember we were like emailing with some CMAP staff and they're like, we'll make sure you're on the steering committee. I think you were.
I did get something back that said that when it was formed that they would let me know.
Yeah, I think you'll be a key person to be involved. And Brad?
First, I got a couple things, but first of all, to Ralph. Manheim Road's a pretty big street with a lot of safety concern there, so wouldn't that be a potential case where a grant opportunity would be strong for a bike bridge? I know that's a very expensive option typically, and it's not always favored, but it seems like on a road like Manheim, that would be what you'd want to look at. Am I missing something there?
You know, you're not. The trouble with a flyover there is you have a place to take off, there's no place to land. When the Prairie Path grant was given, part of the land that the railroad used to run on was sold to private parties that put industrial buildings on. And so the path is directly across from Warren, and you can't land on that street, is what we've been told, because Bellwood has studied and looked into that. And that's unfortunate. They're actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the 25th Avenue Bridge over the railroad on 25th Street, north of, I think it's St. Charles, right in that area. The trouble is that's increased traffic on 25th. And I know Bellwood is looking into a flyover bridge for 25th now, because the traffic has, since they built that bridge, has really increased on 25th. So I know that they've been studying the concept of bridges, and from what they've told me was the fact that there is nowhere to land a bridge on Manheim Road. It's unfortunate. The fortunate thing is that both Washington Boulevard and Madison Street both have signalized lights for pedestrians. So at least it gives it, unlike First Avenue that has no pedestrian crosswalk currently. So that's what we found and what Bellwood's looking at. I'm sure CMAP study will look at these areas as well. And when they do their study. The gentleman from CMAP, do you know anything about a flyover? Have you done it? Ryan, I forgot who was from CMAP.
Well, I'm not sure.
Not from CMAP, but we've worked with CMAP and know of that upcoming project. Yeah, no, it's definitely, I've heard that be raised before as a potential upgrade for that area.
And then just Maggie, to jump briefly to one other topic. You guys mentioned finding out about updates. I'm sure you guys have told me this in another webinar or something, but when IDOT has these projects that are quote unquote approved but not implemented, how does the scheduling for that work? And I'm just asking because we had heard several years ago the Bussy Road diet was approved, and then I had heard it would be implemented in 2023, and I haven't seen anything. And it goes through Park Ridge and Des Plaines, and my Des Plaines contacts aren't hearing anything either. So we'd each thought maybe they were starting on the other guy's side, but now nobody knows. Is that just you wait indefinitely and they do it when they do it, or is there a list and you could see they're pecking down this list, and when they get to it? I'm just curious your comments on that.
Yeah, I like Ryan, you might have some insights on this, but it seems like their list, and Dave too, like it's like
multi-year program. Yeah,
it's proposed but not necessarily, like the timeline is kind of nebulous.
Just put a link to the multi-year program in the chat. Now that's not the only resource, but if it is planned, it should land in there. And it's a running 5-year forecast of what's planned.
All right, I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
And I'll mention on that note that Right Illinois we're close to working or establishing a relationship with the UIC's Urban Transportation Center, working with some of their grad students to complete an ongoing review. It's something Ed Barsati used to do, but Ed is pretty happy being retired, and so doesn't want to do it anymore. So we thought, hey, we've been working with UIC. Let's see if they'd be interested. So we're waiting on official word, but feels like it's going to happen. And so we'd kind of enter into that relationship. So we'd have that foresight into projects around the state and be able to recommend some bike friendly improvements, which oftentimes help with pedestrian safety as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Dave.
And then just a final item, and then I'll wrap it up. Final item, I want to thank you guys, you and Dave, Maggie, for helping me get in contact with some people about connecting to the Plains River Trail. I do have an official okay from my commission in Park Ridge to try and put that on our project list the next year to get a proposal going and maybe look at these grants we just talked about for that. So don't have a ton of updates because it's been a little busy with some other things lately, but hopefully we'll talk about that at some future meetings. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Brad. And Elliot, saw your hands raised. Oh, you're muted.
Now I'm here. Just wanted to ask the group how they measure impact in their community, because I've been reading a bunch of things. We're in Highland Park have had a survey that we did every year, but we're stopped doing that because we didn't feel that it was actually very accurate in assessing our community. I've been looking at what Portland does. They've been doing a huge survey every year for many, many years. And they actually talk about there being issues with that too. In Portland, if you've read about them, some good articles about how their cycling has gone down substantially in like the last 5 years. And it's a continuation of a trend, and it's associated with car traffic actually going up because it's too easy for people to drive into the city. And so so the question is, is total usage a good indicator? Is mode share a good indicator? Is things like crashes, deaths, injuries are generally kind of standard transportation things. But what I'm finding is in certain like more suburban communities, there really aren't very many deaths. Unfortunately, this year in Highland Park, we had one first in a while. But one of the things that we're finding is, the people who don't want to put in sidewalks will say, well, there were no deaths or injuries on that street. And what the truth is that a street that doesn't have sidewalks is substantially more uncomfortable and unsafe inherently than one that does have a sidewalk. And if you like people having to constantly be looking, jump off onto the curb and stuff. So I'm wondering if people have kind of met that issue, because we actually have a big sidewalk project that is heating up. And, the people that are talking about the amount of oxygen that will go down because we removed 3 trees as being a reason for not having sidewalks put in. When obviously, if we had one death there, it would probably be no question about it. But people are very uncomfortable walking down that street with their dogs, with their kids in strollers. Certainly that people in wheelchairs don't even attempt it because it's too dangerous. It's a 0.7 mile stretch of street, freshly paved last month, and always has had a problem with speeding. So other people had experiences in how their communities measure impact, measure success in programs. I know it's expensive to do real measuring, and one of the things I'm being asked to do as part of my transportation advisory group is identify some of the different sources like EcoCounter. There's a company that does a lot of stuff, it looks like. So, but I don't know does anybody know any villages or cities that are actually using those things now? And I can ask them obviously too.
Yeah, good question, Elliot. So if anyone has any ideas on this, feel free to share. I know I'll see if I can dig this up. A couple years ago, we were working in Peoria, and we're putting together a complete streets design guide for the city. And part of that included some like looking at how other communities around the country evaluate complete streets in progress. So part of that is looking at mode share, looking at crashes, and also just looking at how much infrastructure is being added on an annual basis, as well as I think there were some survey examples, so I can share that with you just as like, so you can see what we found. I feel like maybe Evanston is a community to look at. I don't necessarily know what they've done in this regard, but if I'm remembering correctly, I feel like that was an example we looked at. And
I think they've done stuff with obviously miles of infrastructure because they put in so much new, protected lane infrastructure and separated lane infrastructure. So that would make a lot of sense that they would do that.
I'm also like so IDOT recently released their vulnerable road users report.
Yeah.
And I haven't dug into the report yet, and I'm planning on it, but I was at a presentation recently and they were talking about that issue of like, there's like actual safety issues where like, there's crashes or injuries on a road that like, so a road stands out for that. But then they were also looking at perceived safety issues. So roads that have the potential to attract people walking and biking that, maybe don't have those numbers, but they're clearly unsafe given, the conditions of the road. And I think that report was looking at both observed and perceived safety issues. And they created a high injury network for the state. And it's only 300 miles, so I can't say if Highland Park has any of these issue areas that were identified in the report. But maybe it's something to look at to see. I know Cook County did have a lot of roads, and this is focused on state roads too. But Cook County had a lot of roads that were identified as issues.
Can you share that report somehow, or give me guidance on how to find that?
Yeah, I'll send out a link. It's the Vulnerable Road Users Report.
Someone put it into the
I think it put it in early on
in the chat, so it's in there. I took a real quick look at it, and one of the problems they have is they also use census data, but census data only is about people that are commuting or going to work, as opposed to in many communities there's a lot higher percentage of people that are not commuting. Certainly in places like Chicago, there's going to be a higher percentage of commuting.
Yeah,
but
those counters then are helpful to capture the everyday trip.
Yeah, and Portland was saying how they have, they were capturing 4 to 6 p.m. with their surveys in some places, but they weren't capturing during the day, and they weren't capturing recreational users. So
well,
you have to be.
I think you may look into, and I'm sure Ryan could speak to this too, but services like Streetlight or Viva Cities or something that is able to collect data 24/7 and via algorithms or voodoo or whatever they do with it, can determine like there's actually a lot of near misses. There's a lot of motorists not giving a cyclist 3 feet. That might be an opportunity to collect more data than, the alternative is having people stand out there and at key parts of the day. But it seems like more and more there's a technology solution to like painting a real picture of what's going on versus using crash reports to determine.
And
it's so reactive that way.
And we've used Strava data to show kind of where bicyclists go. That's pretty useful, but it's what percentage of the people are using Strava. It's more the spandex crowd than it is the community crowd.
Ryan, can I ask you or put you on the spot? Have you been involved with any municipalities that have like used that data in helping to determine or to influence maybe how a plan moves forward?
So each municipality can get access to free Strava data. It's called
Strava Metro.
Strava Metro. So I use that when I was at McHenry County to kind of mostly just give us guides and just influence rather than like the exact number, mostly just kind of a desire line for where people are going. The one that's used most often, I think, is replica data, which is similar to the same data gathering methods as Streetlight, but it's just a more intuitive interface right now than Streetlight. But yeah, I think those two in tandem are usually used most often.
It's called Replica.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Is that?
Yeah, Elliot, the Replica, IDOT had a contract with Replica to have access to it, and then nonprofits were able to get access to it. But then there was like some issue with the contract. So I'm gonna have to look in to see if we still have access. But if we do, I can see if I can get some data on Highland Park
Okay.
to share. But it's like based off of mobile phone data, is that right? Right. So like 85% of people have a smartphone apparently. And so there's just a lot of data that they can gather based on how fast you're going, and they can guess if you're biking or walking or how you're traveling.
Cool.
I dropped a link to Viva City in there, and I actually attended as like a one-on-one little intro session with one of their folks, and it was interesting. Theirs is basically a camera that a municipality, I don't know who all has access, but the municipality would purchase, set it up, and let it just collect data like 24/7, 365. And behind the scenes, if you go to that link, it kind of shows how it, I don't know, I'm not the technology guy. It's anonymous data, but it collects like all the movement on the street and vehicles versus people versus bikes. And then there's an output that, of data. So we'll probably see another 10 companies doing this in the near future, right? As this technology improves.
I was in Sarasota this late summer and crossing a street. I might have shared this before, and there was a post, and you walked by the post before you crossed the street, and automatically set off the the crosswalk. They had lights on the ground and lights up in the air, and boy, did cars stop when you did that. And it was, I'm sure they can use that for measuring volume too, because they know how many people cross that street. Of course, there's a sign there that says, "Do not cross street if the light is not green." So because you're going to back up the cars, God forbid the cars have to wait for 5 seconds. Anyways, thank you for the ideas. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. Army, did you have a question? Or for some reason I thought I saw your hand up.
I did have a question. So I noticed on the Salt Creek Trail, there's in one area, it's really dangerous. The ground or the trail actually butts up, and there's like grass growing through it. And I know exactly where it's at, so I always know, okay, I gotta slow down when I get in there. But for people who don't know it's there, who do I contact to, say, hey, somebody needs to come out and try to fix this?
I think the Salt Creek Trail is unique in that the communities that it passes through tend to be the ones to maintain it.
I ran into a similar issue with a connector to the Old Plank Trail. It's under it's part of the municipality that it runs through, and getting in touch with the right person. Every other person except the right person was very responsive to me. So I would say get in touch with someone who's maybe on that municipality's transportation committee, if they have one. And that might get the ear of the right person.
Okay.
Army, I had a suggestion too. I'm a member of the Trail Watch in Cook County Forest Preserves. If the Salt Creek Trail section you're talking about is in the Forest Preserve, there's a way you can report it to that Trail Watch group. I've taken photos of things that are, hazards and sent it in it gets put on some type of a work list, depending on the priority of the risk involved, but that might be another option.
Okay, yeah, I don't think it's part of the forest preserve there. I believe it's right before, if I'm going northbound on the trail, it's right before I would get to Irving Park Road, I think that is there. I don't know, but it's right
That would
along the
be-
railroad tracks. I know that.
Yeah, I think that's Wooddale. I will say locally with Friends of Cycling Elk Grove, we have reported issues, asked them to trim back. They have been receptive. Not like instantly receptive, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
most
that's also an
good.
issue there too, but it's more the ground is, to me, they need, I noticed on some of the trails now, what they're doing is like where they have I call it the tree roots coming up. It's kind of like that, but this actually comes up to almost like a point. But they need to do something like to flatten that out. Like some of the areas have done with the tree roots.
I would,
I don't know.
point, contact the municipality. I mean, you gotta
Yeah, I will.
start somewhere, and then you can always, some of those little spikes have been painted too. Some folks have done that, so maybe you can do
Yeah, I
that.
have noticed that, but in this area, I don't think any of them are painted, and there's quite a few. It's like playing dodgeball when you go through there.
Well, let
Are
us
there
know what
multiple
happens.
salt-
Oh, go ahead, Ralph. Sorry.
Are there multiple Salt Creek paths in Cook County? I think of the Salt Creek as being the zoo path in Riverside. And
It's the
down
same
there.
trail. It's the same trail.
And this was at Irving Park Road, you said?
Yeah, it goes all the way from Brookfield to Bussey Woods. It's the same trail.
I always thought that went from Wolf Road to Brookfield Zoo.
That was the
Mhm.
original. It's been extended up to Bussey probably about 15 years ago.
Okay, do you know how you make a connection from the zoo to north?
I said, put your email in if you wouldn't mind, Ralph, and I'll send you a
Okay,
map.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will tell you, once you get to Elmhurst, there's no signage whatsoever. But when you get to Elmhurst, you come out of the park, you just stay on Hawthorne and take that all the way to the prayer path, and that's when it reconnects there, and then you hop off and reconnect again once you're over Route 83. But there's no real signage. And I won't go into why it's a sore spot.
Parker?
Yeah, so a win out here in Elgin just this past week. Downtown Elgin got 60, 70 some inverted U bike racks. Ryan, I think you participated in that process once upon a time. I think it's a 12-year-old CMAQ grant that's finally getting it's on the ground, and so we got bike racks where real locks will help real bikes stay where you leave them. So yeah.
Excellent. Congrats to Elgin. All right. Well, thanks for the update, and thanks all for your questions and your thoughts and your help with brainstorming and finding solutions for everyone. So appreciate it, and happy holidays to everyone. Dave and I have to check in about scheduling our next few Suburban advocacy calls, but I think we're scheduled for February 2024. So we'll send out an email with updates on that, and as well as all the links that were shared here today. But yeah, again, happy holidays, and good to see you all. Yeah, and take care. Looking forward to seeing you all in the new year.
Thanks,
Happy
Maggie.
New Year and Merry Christmas, everybody, or happy holidays.
Yeah.
Thanks, Maggie and David, for all your help and work.
Of course.
I guess.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.